This week's episode was brought to you by Abra C, Mercy, and Nihil Obstat. Thank you, Abra Mercy and Nihil Obstat. It's with the continued support of loyal members like you that our brigade of bunnies stays afloat upon the seas of cheese, searching out the southbound Ganesha and hailing Santa from his abodes beyond the abyssal reach in the caverns under the dragon's tail, and making spiritually protective identification ambulance from the salival crust of the undead titan hardened upon the crystal mobile of ancient subterranean microwaves of the elder gods of extraterrestrial origin. If you'd like to help us make amulets from the hardened mucus of dead elder gods, or just hear the second half of this episode, then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only guarantee your access to the second half of this episode, no, you'll be given access to our entire secret library of extended episodes, which are guaranteed to help you survive the food desert that our brains are subjected to on an ongoing basis. But not only that, I'll send you a 5x5 high-quality vinyl sticker of our big Bunny Baphomet cover art that's probably too big to stick on anything comfortably, but it will let everybody know in the vicinity that you're strange and not to mess with your magic powers. You'll also get the secret keys to our Discord server, which is located in the place where they shot the end of Apocalypse Now. You've been warned. In this week's episode, we explore if there's any truth behind the well-loved pop psychology meme going around the internet in the last few years, detailing the Silent War, a covert struggle for the minds of the masses between a decentralized group of marginalized schizo-autists and a loosely affiliated cadre of enfranchised psychopathic elites. Or more simply, the silent war between the schizos and the psychos. A theory that proponents claim is as old as time, and offers us new perspective on the dynamics of power between the hidden genius of charismatic predators who run things from the shadows, and the people like us who happen to notice them but can't seem to get normal people to listen until it's too late. In the extended show, we go really deep on how psychopaths manipulate the herd, some examples of how it works, from all the way to the geopolitical stage to the workplace, before settling on how to identify and defend yourself, friends, and family from the psychopath and his very specific brand of bullshit. Thank you, and enjoy the show. People always tell me I have schizophrenia.
Yeah?
Yeah, but the voices in my head say otherwise.
Listen to them.
The problem is that when people speak to God, it's called praying.
But when God speaks to me, it's called schizophrenia.
Yep.
And come to think of it, someone I actually know was diagnosed as a psychopath.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to feel.
Yeah, that's the definition.
Why can't you hear a psychopath on the toilet?
Why?
Because they're holding it in? Wait, no.
Because his pee is silent.
That's a good one.
What's the difference between dating a psychopath and going to a haunted house?
What?
Once you come inside, you can't go back.
Wow.
Oh.
That's pretty good. That's my favorite one.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just tell you to take your meds, get some therapy, take a walk outside, eat healthier, meditate, and journal to improve your relationship between the self and society at large. Nay, we also tell you the grim truth that makes this advice necessary, because everybody knows that all of human civilization is secretly a war for the human soul, fought between an invisible, decentralized army of unhinged but well-meaning autists and a criminal overclass of highly organized, camouflaging, predatory elite, because this week, we're talking about the utterly taboo topic of the Silent War, the secret battle being waged between schizos and psychopaths. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, also known as the Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by our active duty officers in the field, the mad Mari-sama.
Well, I'm not really mad, but I guess I'm insane.
I'm mad but ain't stressing. The impervious adamantine autist, Heka Astra.
Hello.
And the slapper of psychopaths, Tim Hesperides Hacker.
Victoris ad mortis.
So this is one of those episodes where we're going to explore a very popular piece of modern folk mythology that seems to pop up quite often when exploring the darker corners of the internet. This is a bit like the psychological version of that meme that simplifies all spiritual warfare on the earth as a struggle between the snake and eagle faction. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is like that. It's not hard science. It's not hard mythology, but it's a thought experiment that has captured the minds of the masses, and there is some meat.
Which one's the snake and which one's the eagle?
Now you're asking questions I'm not ready for.
Okay, so that's just a matter of perspective, because the snake could be seen as the good or evil, depending on whether you're on the side of the eagle or the snake. But like what we're talking about is objectively like good and evil in a way, with lots of gray. Don't get me wrong, nothing's totally good or evil, but it's different than the snake versus the eagle because it's psychos versus normies versus schizos. So
Yeah,
there's
there is a
actually
third party.
class here. Yeah.
Yes, that is true.
So I'm assuming, and it seems obvious, that the psychopaths are the evil.
Yes.
Yeah, generally spoken, yes.
In fact, the term for the study of evil does come up in the research for this episode. So, in this thought experiment, it's not snakes and eagles. It's a struggle between a loose, unofficial confederacy of relatively successful psychopaths and a vast multitude of ornery, decentralized, autist schizos who see manipulation for what it is and have a hard time looking people in the eyes and staying employed.
Hey,
So wait, so autists are being viewed in the light of schizophrenia for this
It's a little dark than that.
for this
I'll-
for this particular thought experiment.
Yes.
for now, think of them as archetypes. Don't lean into this. I'll talk about the psychiatric implications of it later.
Yeah,
but
don't
for
take
now,
it literally, listener.
these are archetypes that we're talking about, and then
Yeah.
the schizo and the autist are intertwined almost because these are the people that you think of on 4chan that are decentralized individuals that come together to do deep research to stamp out what they view as psychopathic or evil behavior in
So technically, we're on the
Greater-
schizo side.
yes, exactly, but greater society, right? And the normies are the faction in between that each side uses. They either use, like the psychopaths use as a pawn to placate or distract the schizos, and the schizos want to help the normies
Okay.
like overcome
so-
the psychopath. So these are just archetypes that people talk about online. Their nicknames and shit they give each other.
So just for starters, just because we're lumping autists in with this label of schizos, we're not actually calling all autists schizophrenic.
No,
Yes,
no,
we're
no.
not talking about literal schizophrenia at all.
I'll explain all this later. Don't worry.
Yeah, we're not even to that disclaimer yet, you could say.
Okay.
But it is important to know that that's the main dichotomy we're talking about is the schizo versus the psychopath. But if you go over to the schizo side, there's another meme dichotomy. In the schizo side, it's a dichotomy between schizos and autists.
So
Right.
this is like kind of in meme terms.
This is all in meme terms.
Oh, okay.
None
Yes,
of this is
all of it.
official at
Yep.
all.
Okay.
We'll get into the nuance of it because it's actually, it's funny because there actually is some science to it.
Yeah.
So, to start from square one, the basic concept behind Silent War began where all viral info hazards seem to originate. On 4chan. The core text that we're about to read first appeared there as an anonymous post on /poll, the most toxic place online, occurring in the month of November 27, 2022. It was thread number 406166838, post number 406171908. The text has been copied endlessly since then. It reads,
There is a silent war happening between psychopaths and schizophrenics. We know that the population numbers are very small for both groups. However, one group,
is more likely to become CEOs, and those are
psychopaths, and the other is more likely to become homeless, schizos. This is because schizos are good at pattern recognition and can notice the psychos around them. Normies are incapable of seeing psychopaths right in front of them, and psychos relish and dominate because of this. Schizos are able to know them on an instinctual level and suss them out in a way that normies never could. Thus, there is a constant demoralization campaign against schizos from the tyrant psychos who seek to use the population against their greatest natural enemy.
So this was screenshotted and it escaped containment almost immediately. A prominent Reddit thread on r/4chan appeared the next day, November 28th. So it went straight to Reddit.
Normie city.
Levitt. By early 2023, it had already been turned into a narrated 4chan story on YouTube, notably the channel Vanegood, and later cycled through TikTok and Instagram, where most people have probably heard of it by now.
This is all new to me.
So this is where it almost goes without saying. I guess we need to say it though. In terms of actual science, the terms schizo and psychopath are being used loosely in a highly colloquial manner, such that we should not expect the term schizo to mean, in every instance, what a real-life doctor would diagnose as schizophrenia. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
It's an archetype. We've established that. Now, in some cases, we are referring to people who we might consider autistic or on the spectrum or schizophrenic. The real life versions do still fit in the colloquial meme space, you could say.
So they would still fall in that pond.
They could. They'd be more likely to. So the term psycho or psychopath is also being used loosely with no particular medical diagnosis being referred to, although a subject who exhibits the dark triad, narcissism, Machiavellianism, mixed with high impulsiveness and a total lack of empathy. Sometimes that third one is just actually referred to as psychopathy. Would probably fit into the colloquial definition of a psycho quite comfortably, even if no medical diagnosis is implied.
So, on the other hand, if you're an insufferable nerd, you might be in the schizo category.
If you are an insufferable nerd, you are very likely in the schizo category, yeah.
Nice.
You might be considered an autist.
Checks out.
For the record, just having learned about this spectrum, you are very far on the autist side and I'm very far on the schizo side.
No offense taken on my behalf.
Yeah, you should be proud to be neurodivergent. It's awesome.
Luke's been looking up stuff about autism and he's like, it makes sense now with you. You make sense now.
So
I'm not autistic, but I do have ADHD, and I feel like I understand autistic people extremely well.
I think you're a little on the autist spectrum. That's partially what gives you your superpowers and why certain things don't bother you.
But I'm social and I can look people in the eyes.
I think Mari and I are autistic sisters.
Yeah.
Mari has the lowdown on masking.
Nice.
So now, despite all of this disclaimer stuff we did, there truly is a scientific and historical basis to the meme. To some extent, it is actually true that schizos and psychopaths clash as two opposing psychological modalities, which, although are distinctly different from the baseline herd, must compete to exist within it. The first place we see this supposed dichotomy emerge, within the field of science that is, goes back to the turn of the century regarding the treatment of alcoholics. In the years around World War I, a Swiss psychiatrist named Kurt Binswanger studied a particular type of subject who drank heavily. Now, these people weren't just considered ordinary alcoholics. They had a distinct personality style. They lived a rich, intense, often overwhelming inner world, felt emotionally distant from others, and struggled with ordinary social life. Binswanger surmised that alcohol became their way of dulling that intensity or escaping the discomfort of being around people. One of my best friends and magician buddies. That's why he wears crystals, to block out that stuff. Binswanger just found a class of people that use booze. Now, Binswanger called this particular type of subject the Schizoid Alkaholikier. I think that's like a Germany, Bavarian-y word for alcoholic. So his work helped shape the idea of schizoid psychopathy. It's a constitutional personality type marked by withdrawal, oddity, that means being odd, like you, my love,
Thanks.
and intense inner experience that could sit on the milder end of what we now call the schizophrenia-spectrum, or at least act as if they had a vulnerability towards schizophrenia. It's important to consider that this schizoid psychopathy is not the same as full schizophrenia, which involves quite a bit bigger serious break with reality. It's a description of a long-standing personality style, the sensitive, inwardly focused, socially awkward pattern seer who never quite fits with the everyday world. This fits more or less perfectly with the type we see in the Silent War meme, the schizo.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to be an alcoholic to fit into this.
No, he just discovered them through studying alcoholics. Like, oh, these people are different from my other alcoholics.
Did I do that? Like, they're using it as a coping mechanism specifically for being an awkwardly shaped puzzle piece.
Yes. And he was careful not to describe the subjects as cartoon crazy drunks. Many of these people retained a certain amount of dignity or produced creative or insightful work before or even despite their alcoholism. These individuals were described as having a vivid inner world, which could, although make them an inspired person, also render them more sensitive than other people, leading to their withdrawal.
You know what this reminds me of? Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sounds like he'd be an example of this.
Or Van Gogh.
Yeah. Wait, was he a drunk too?
Yeah, absinthe.
Ah, yeah.
I've heard quite a few of the world's biggest and greatest conquerors were really overly sensitive, emotional people when they were young. They just never found the bottle, I guess. So he noticed, because these particular subjects didn't play the social game well, they were the folks who ended up on the edges of society, unemployed, isolated, and oftentimes homeless.
Yeah, Oscar, you're a grouch. I live in a fucking trash can.
So the same sensitivity that makes them good at spotting hidden patterns also makes ordinary functioning a lot harder, he found.
Yeah.
In this way, Binswanger's schizoid psychopathy almost perfectly describes the schizoid side of the silent war meme, like almost in its own terms. But things, especially when psychology is in an active state of evolution, are rarely so cut and dry. A few decades earlier, in the 1890s, Carl Ludwig Karlbaum, the guy who gave us the term catatonia, you know when someone's catatonic and they like don't move?
Yeah.
So he's the one who came up with that. He also described a condition called heboidophrenia, which hits during adolescence or young adulthood, much like schizophrenia. He noted that it mainly disturbs personality, drive, mood, and social behavior rather than destroying the intelligence. Heboidophreniacs can seem irritable, capricious, odd, or chronically antisocial. To outsiders, this often appears as bad character, or upbringing, or delinquency, rather than mental illness. The person may commit crimes or repeatedly get into social trouble without the dramatic hallucinations or obvious thought disorders of full schizophrenia.
Isn't this just called being a teenager?
Yeah.
So I would assume if this was prolonged into adulthood, it would be some kind of social avoidance personality disorder that
Yeah.
it might be diagnosed as.
Yeah, following this train of thought, clinicians saw the patients who checked many of the boxes for psychopathy. They had charm, manipulativeness, lack of remorse, and rule breaking, but they actually had an underlying schizophrenic process. The psycho traits were sometimes a defense, a secondary expression, or simply the most visible part of a deeper fragmentation. He notes that these tendencies were noticeable beginning in youth when they formed.
So he sussed out that these antisocial and aggressive behaviors were actually longing for connection and acceptance among their peers. So it's a lashing out almost. And like teenagers have their frontal lobe is not as developed, so they will most
Especially in men or boys.
Yes, and they will most often resort to like physical means rather than like rationing out or thinking about how to approach problems. So this makes a lot of sense. Like they could be ruled as like a psychopath or some such, but it's because of the hormones, the growing pattern that they're in makes it harder to express negative feelings in a proactive way. Like they instead lash out with violence, but there's something soft underneath and there is a logic behind it that's not present with a psychopath.
So in short, they found that this psycho mask could sometimes be worn driven by an underlying schizo process. This means that technically, medicinally speaking, the two poles kind of blend together. To me, it reads a little bit like either you die young or you live long enough to see your heroes become villains. So I've seen Elon Musk depicted as both. You know what I mean? When people talk about Elon Musk, like, oh, he's an autist. No, he's a psychopath. No, he's an autist who had to learn how to be a psychopath. You know what I mean? Like,
I would just say the only difference is that in autism, these traits often show up in childhood as opposed to adolescence.
yeah. So it also does explain some of the mechanics of the silent war, as schizos often appear as psychos to normies, which works to the schizoid's disadvantage and helps obscure the real psychopath even better. In short, the schizoid masking appears to the normie as manipulation or fakeness, a trait that the normie associates with the psycho. So
Well, that's confusing, isn't it?
this allows the real psychos to stay hidden and appear justified when they attempt to push the schizoid out of the group, which is what they'll always do. That's confusing. Well, it's supposed to be. The normies know the psychos are bad, but have trouble detecting them. The schizoids can detect psychos, but appear themselves as psychos to normies. Meanwhile, the actual psychos are experts that appear normal to normies. This allows the psycho to witch hunt the schizo in the name of hunting psychos while pretending to be a normie. Did you catch all that?
You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. So, what'll I make you? Good? You're not good. You just know how to hide, how to lie.
No, that makes
Yes.
sense to me. It also feels very unjust.
Because it is.
I found a place I thought this was well reflected at science fiction. Just so happens to be one of my favorite fiction authors, Philip K. Dick. He wrote a book called Ubik, and it features a humanity that is similarly divided naturally into three parts, much like the Silent War. So in Ubik, There's 3 classes. There's the normie, then there's the second one, which is the psychic. And the psychic is capable of any number of strange feats, like reading minds, predicting the future, influencing probability, and so forth. Then the third type is the anti-psychic, which Dick calls inertials. And they function by negating or nullifying the psychic abilities of the second class.
It's a good book.
So a really good book. And that's definitely not the weirdest part of it. But it reads to me a lot like the Silent War. One reason I find this parallel interesting is because it's the psychic class of people which are notorious for being able to infiltrate already existing business structures and either destroy or commandeer them from within. And this parallels the psychopaths' natural ability to do that exact thing. They call it systems capturing, and it's something psychopaths do very well. Now, in Ubik, the normies have very little to no defense against this trait. Fortunately, the normies of Ubik can call upon inertials. The inertials, of course, have the ability to detect and counteract the psychic's manipulations. Like sometimes just having an inertial there will force the psychic to stop working, and then they'll like quit the business or whatever. Naturally, within the context of the novel, the psychics are more manipulative, dangerous, and insidious, where in real life, it's the psychopaths that are the dangerous, manipulative, insidious ones. And they're more easily detectable or counteracted by the inertial, or in this case, the
Schizo.
Schizo, yes, schizo. I think we need to talk about the colloquial part of the meme, which is like, okay, now we're calling autists and schizos the same thing. What does that mean? Like,
They're not exactly the same.
Why does the autist fit under the colloquially schizo label? Like, what's that about?
All right, so like we said earlier, when we say schizo, this actually means people with schizotypal personalities. Schizotypal is not a diagnosis, but instead a collection of traits that overlap frequently in many psychiatric disorders. So schizophrenia is just one psychological diagnosis that fits under this umbrella, which is the most extreme form, along with autism as well.
Oh.
These tropes that show up being identifiers among the 4chan anons are actually based around the schizotypal personality in psychology, which includes a wide swath of fringe or outsider personality traits and behavior.
So it does kind of make sense that it fits under the same umbrella as autism, because sometimes, especially if there's a misdiagnosis of autism, what is it that they prescribe? They prescribe antipsychotics, similar to what they prescribe people with schizophrenia that have hallucinations or hear things. So that's pretty interesting.
Well, because the actual term, the collection of symptoms or behaviors that's considered schizotypal, is actually, they view it as an indicator of the likelihood that you will develop schizophrenia.
Yeah.
So schizophrenia is like the final psychosis that results from having these quirks or personality traits. And if they are accentuated too strongly over the personality, then you can lose touch with reality. And that's what schizophrenia is.
I love everyone.
So a schizotypal personality would include these traits: autism, eccentricity, mysticism, obsession, special interests, fringe investigation, social alienation, pattern recognition, contrarianism, and unconventional communication styles.
So this show, basically.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So again, it's not all the same thing. While schizophrenics are not the usual target demographic of this specific term, I think this disorder is the actual bad end result of a schizotypal person developing hallucinations and illusions and believing too strongly in them at the detriment of the well-being of themselves and the others around them. So for example, a neurodivergent person who falls way too far into magical thinking, delusions, and negative thoughts and perceptions, they're at higher risk for this kind of psychosis to develop actual schizophrenia.
So this would
But
be like magical thinking OCD would fall into this category.
Right. OCD could fall into this category, but if you're washing your hands because you feel this like urge to do it versus someone who is so afraid of germs that they would want to live like isolated in a blow up plastic bubble and wash their hands constantly.
Who invaded Spain in the 8th century?
That's a joke. The Moors.
Oh no. I'm so sorry, it's the moops.
There's a delusion involved with that, right? Versus someone who's just like, I just like to wash my hands. You know, that's what I'm saying is because like autistic people also have patterns. It's a comforting thing. It's a self-soothing behavior that's almost like a tic, like Tourette's syndrome, like that they just do it. That's also called stimming sometimes. It's like a self-soothing activity. But like people that have delusions do it because they feel like they'll die or someone will come hurt them if they don't do it. Like there's a delusional or hallucinogenic schizophrenic aspect to schizophrenia, that what we're talking about when we say schizo here, it doesn't mean everybody falls into the negative spiral, right? Because we're talking about schizotypal people. These are people that have these traits, but they don't necessarily they have enough grounding to understand that when something's a fantasy or a delusion and when it's not.
So you might have a pattern recognition compulsion, but it's not accompanied by a delusion, and that's okay. I see a pattern in the floor and I have to walk the pattern, but it's not accompanied with the delusion that it's because of aliens.
Right, exactly.
If you'd like a really vivid example of this archetype, especially one that was in danger of falling into the extreme, Nikola Tesla. He said as a child he suffered from hallucinations and delusions and he had to really fight through them, and it was only after he worked through them was he able to make a high-functioning use of all his other, eccentricities, obsessions, fringe investigations. And he was a famous contrarian. He famously was defenseless against psychos.
And then his eating behavior was really weird, but it's harmless. You know what I mean? With autistic people, they're very much grounded. They're very concrete. They might have rituals or schedules they like to keep, but they're not having these hallucinations or these delusions that are terrorizing them into obeying these rituals. They're just doing them because they feel comfortable. It makes them feel comfy.
But if you are going to push someone into that, it's those people. Those are the people that are susceptible to being pushed into full-on schizophrenia. And that's important because you can make people crazy.
Yeah, and it can be coexistent.
Psychosis is a very serious condition, and I believe it to be the bad end of this hero's journey. If you succumb to the shadows, you will spiral into psychosis and no longer be of service to yourself or others. A successful schizo hero will use their balanced creative intuition as well as practicality to be of good service to others, to point out flaws and incongruencies in the environment, and to warn the herd before the signal can be picked up by normie. This allows them to avoid the trap of self-devouring psychosis. So in underground spaces, the terms autist and schizo are colloquial identifiers of neurodivergent and schizotypal people who are possibly chronically online. This is because of the various overlapping symptoms and personality traits, like social outsider. They observe ordinary society from a distance. They have intense pattern recognition. They have symbolic, imaginative, or mystical thinking, obsessive interest in research, low instinctive respect for prestige or conventional authority. They may care deeply, but also struggle to express that care conventionally towards others. They seek truth or meaning, even without status or reward. The biggest risk for these people are rumination, overconnecting events, being isolated, paranoia, and a loss of reality testing. So not getting any feedback. Connection to others and grounding is extremely helpful to avoid these negative symptoms.
I'm sure there's some people in the audience who are like, oh my God, that's me.
I mean, it's a lot of, I think it's more people than we realize. And I also think that autism and these neurodivergent stuff, I think this is the human race evolving as a response to the information age, because we are being bombarded constantly by propaganda, things telling us how to think and feel. And it's only natural that we would develop these, a lot of these are just defense mechanisms to being bombarded.
Have you ever heard of the research concerning ADHD and the hunter archetype psychologically and the farmer archetype psychologically? The ADHD people are actually, they were incredibly important in the past. They were the hunters, whereas not neurodivergent people, they're the farmers. And we evolved to have more farmers and less hunters, but hunters are still evolving and around, and those people are ADHD people.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
That's helpful because hunting's
even,
hey, what's that?
Even gathering is ADHD induced.
Well, ADHD people or ADD people have a very specific set of skills that they're just super really good at. And one of them is hyperfixation, hyperfocus. We're known for not being able to focus, which is true, but we're only not able to focus on stuff that doesn't matter to us.
Right. If we're interested, give it up. We're going to talk about it for days.
Exactly. You can't compete with somebody who's ADHD and they're hyperfixated on something.
Yeah, because then you become hyper-focused on it, which is essential for hunting.
And it's a superpower.
That's why extraction shooters are so popular. It taps into that part of your mind.
Yeah, I love PvP fighter shooter games and stuff like that because I've just always been so good at them. I can get in the top leaderboards games just practicing over a month when it comes to PvP shooter games.
Let's talk about masking, because both the psycho and the autist have to do masking to fit in with normies. What's that all about?
Yeah, this is really interesting. So masking is a concealing natural behavior where you consciously perform socially expected behavior. So you're acting acting to fit in, basically. And the purpose and execution of masking can differ dramatically depending on who's doing it. And come to find out, I didn't know this before researching, but masking is actually done by everyone, including normies. What I found out about normies is that they mask in an effortless and intuitive way. They identify with the mask they are wearing so strongly that it feels seamlessly like themselves. Their ego is not aware that it is doing any kind of social performance to gain the approval or attention of others. It just plays the part, no questions asked. And some of these people actually get more energy from doing it. Imagine that.
Psychic vampire.
Possibly.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. And this reminds me of something I've heard normies reply to lately on, let's say, X or Twitter, because there's been an uptick in awareness. Everyone wants to identify as an autist, right? I'm autistic. Well, I saw some normies reply. They're like, hey, introspective autist people, hadn't you ever considered us normies also have to do some kind of masking, and it actually does take work and energy and effort, and you guys are actually just being selfish and not pulling your part of the load?
It's not that.
I think there's something to that a little bit. But I mean, if it's infinitely harder for the schizo-autist to mask, then it's not really fair. That makes sense.
So like, that's not comparable or fair, bro. Like, I'll just step in there right now. One of the first things to de-escalation in psychology when you're dealing with people who have issues, you never diminish their issues that they claim to have, whether you believe that they are real or not. And it is incredibly harder for autistic people to mask. Like, it's all their energy.
I'm just replying to the idea that for some normies, it still is kind of draining to be around people. And it takes effort.
Well,
it's not the same thing.
They don't understand. They don't understand.
It's not even close to the same thing.
Because it becomes one with your ego. With autism, you early on learn what is an appropriate way to express yourself or not express yourself, and that still continues to remain separate from yourself. And you
have to train.
Yeah, and you want to still be truthful to the underlying separation, and you don't
and it's
become
so much
one
more
with
painful
it.
for the autistic to learn.
You don't become one with it, and that is why it is so draining for autistic people in social circumstances, because they understand that it is like
not them.
It's not them. But whereas with most people, it becomes one with themselves. So it is
they're acting
effortless. And
they're like a good actor compared to someone who's really trying to do a character they're not from, you know what I mean? And it's like a good actor next to a bad actor.
And we're like in my alley here. I'm not trying to be confrontational. Sorry.
It's not only effortless for the vast majority of people, but a lot of people actually get more energy from those social situations. So they actually get a boon from it, whereas autistic people are left with a deficit.
Right.
Yes,
exactly. Because most schizos or autists are introverts, and then extroverts, they gain energy off of social interaction. So the more that they blend in and the more that they engage themselves, they view their character that they're playing, their mask, they view it, oh, I am that. They don't have a separation at all, but we have it, you know, like
so when you're saying that stuff, Luke, it's victim shaming.
Oh my God, you guys are going really hard on me over just one thing I said.
But
like, you guys need to calm your tits. I'm not like...
It's not even, it's not even that Luke said that. It's that the normie told him that. What I'm saying is the normie has a glimpse of what it's like because they had to play a part they didn't want to play. But most parts that they play, they're good at it. Like there's no like training or like understanding how to do it. They just know how to do it.
It's the difference
not the
between
same
like
thing.
social integration as an aspect of yourself and social integration as not an aspect of yourself. And
exactly.
It's also, if you're autistic, you can learn how to mask really, really well. But that's also still not the same as acting in a social situation, because if you have to be untruthful in a social situation, you might be really terrible at it. And that's because you are already masking in the first place. So to put another layer on top of that to be disingenuous is really difficult. And
most people withdraw.
That's usually where the autist gives themselves away.
They withdraw. They have to leave like immediately.
Yeah, this is not a hill that I'm dying on or championing. I'm merely pointing out that I saw somebody say this, and I'm pointing it out because it
People
helps.
who say that are victim blaming.
I'm merely pointing it out to validate the idea that normies do in fact mask. And just to speak to that for what I'm talking about, I'm not trying to say that, like...
It's not as hard. Yeah, no. But
you guys are making me feel really guilty over what that... Like, I don't think
I'm not trying to be confrontational.
Okay, Luke.
Not shaming anyone.
Luke, I just found this out, so it's like new information to me because that was who they were, you know? No, they're actually good at acting.
I think he's trying to back you up on it.
My point is, let's say I were doing the show live in front of a bunch of people. My masking would be effortless. but the masking that I have to do in order to record on a podcast takes like way, way, way more effort. So, and it's draining. Whereas if I did it in person, it would give me energy. So I'm just saying, like,
Sure there.
some normies in some cases, it probably does feel like really difficult to mask. And I'm just pointing out, yeah, it does take effort to mask. It just happens to be this schizoid and the autist that takes like way more energy. I'm just pointing it out.
No, I mean, I agree
Think
with
about
you.
trying to mask and you don't really understand how the masking works in the first place, dude.
Well, there's also the thing, if you're a normie, you can be more easily manipulated by the psychos, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's also
But
that pain the normie faces.
The thing about the autist masking, though, dude, the key point of all of it is they don't understand what they're doing in the first place.
Which is why they get excluded from the group and why the psychopath has an easier time pushing them out, because they seem more asynchronous and like harder to understand to the normie. Because the normie's like, why are they being that way? You know what I mean?
The psycho is charming and alluring.
And they always know what to say and they always know what to do.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so moving on, it is different with schizos and psychos. Both of these archetypes recognize that society is sloppy and inconsistent. Reality is malleable. They are both aware that they're on the outside of the illusion, and they perform different masks to play the part and fit into different facets of society. So their true selves cannot be detected or rejected by the herd. That is what they both have in common. However, the motivations and techniques are different between the two. So the schizo and the autist occupy the same archetypical territory, outsiders looking in. Both of them wear masks because they long for a connection in a world that doesn't come naturally to them. The autist is concrete, logical, and methodical, learning social rules to find belonging and avoid rejection and to foster meaningful connection with others. The schizo is symbolic, imaginative, and hyper-associative, and uses masking to conceal the parts of themselves that others might dismiss as strange, irrational, or insane. One seeks to understand the system, the autist. The other seeks to understand reality itself, the schizo. They are two mutual expressions of the same journey from different perspectives, each hoping to be accepted by normal society without abandoning who they really are. This is a survival mechanism. It kind of reminds me also of the left-right brain theory or the feminine and masculine principles, you know, the yin and yang. There's like a different approach, but it's the same holistic principle, is that they're masking to preserve themselves. It's a defense mechanism. It's a longing to belong and to be connected to people.
Yeah, you want to be true to yourself, but you also learned early on that rejection sucks, and you know that you have to be a part of this society. So you find ways to be a part of society without abandoning truly who you are.
And if you're isolated for a long enough time, you could fall into schizophrenia. There is a real risk of losing your mind if you're that segmented away from society. So there's got to be some kind of connection that we make. And I would argue also like witches or hermits or shaman were these types of people that lived of society, but they also came in aid and to help people.
You know what I'm realizing? My initiation was having to suddenly be hyper aware of all the masks that I was using and wearing, because I had to reverse some like weird hypnosis process that had been done on me. And like, I guess what I'm getting at is normies respond very poorly to pointing out what they have the privilege of operating unconsciously. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I mean, ignorance is bliss.
I think it's also possible for someone who starts off in the normie category to end up in the schizo category as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
everybody starts off as normies to a degree.
That's what initiation is.
noticing.
No, and not unless you're an autist. That's
Yes, we're not talking literally. In the literally sense, I didn't mean to be so like antagonistic towards what you said, Luke. It's just that like I've had thousands and thousands of hours of training, and you know my real job in real life.
Yeah.
I take care of people. I have lots of people, I have clients who are schizophrenics, who are autists, who are the other. So I'm naturally inclined to be defensive towards them and I understand them. And I didn't mean to be so confrontational, so I say sorry for that.
I get it. I like to imagine my gift is trying to explain schizoid stuff to normies.
But when normies start seeing through the veil, there is a real inherent risk of them spiraling.
It's
You know
not
what
fun.
I mean?
Yeah, I got to represent us.
Normies can go crazy. I don't want to say it like that, but that's what I mean is like they're worldview can be undone. They can notice that they're wearing masks. They can see that there's some kind of between reality and how they view things. And so like we have to also be there to support people that are coming out of the if you're waking up, you're like elevating your awareness of the world, and that's something we should embrace and like welcome them. So I agree with you, Luke.
Yeah,
but
we should have empathy for them. We should have empathy for them. It's like, oh, you want another red pill? You want another fucking red pill? You want another one? Wake up, motherfucker! How do you like it that the people you voted for like eat babies? How do you like that, motherfucker? It's like, no wonder they don't like it.
It's too much shit. At the same time, their pain is just as legitimate as someone who's dealt with it their whole life.
Correct.
Like,
Exactly.
So I think
each and every individual experience is its own unique case that you should not like have
don't judge.
Yeah.
I think Luke cross sides into the schizo category during his theophany pretty heavily, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I think I was
Part of
probably a psychopath, and then I smoked weed and became a normie, and then after that, I fell fully into schizoid, and that's how I became a podcast host about this. That's what I think happened.
You balanced it out, dude, because it's a balance. Any schizotypal can fall into being full-on paranoid schizophrenic, like not making any sense.
But that's part of the journey.
Yeah, I know, but like you have to touch it, but like you can't stay there. Okay, so lastly, psychopaths. We have to talk about them, right?
We do actually, yeah.
And they are also outsiders, but there's a huge difference, and they're able to dive in to social interaction whenever they want. The mask they wear is an accessory that they use to attract other people or impress them. They understand others can be manipulated, and so they use masking to influence people for their own personal benefit, regardless of the feelings or thoughts of others. They understand that socialization is an act they are putting on to fit in to the herd. They do it with such flair and charm that it seems they're actually neurotypical, like a normie. They cognitively understand emotion and how others feel, but they do not feel empathy or situationally appropriate emotions in the same way that neurotypicals do. Say, like at a funeral, or if someone announces bad news, they might feel like a little bit bad, like they understand to like frown and not laugh or something, but they don't really feel the other's pain. They don't have that unconditional love link that allow them to feel the emotions. If one mask doesn't work for the psychopath, they can seamlessly slide into another, act irrational, contradict themselves, lie, and they'll still get along well with other people. And people will like them, they'll still be popular. It's really weird. Masking also isn't as exhausting for them as much as the autist or the schizo. And to game or exploit the world around them is actually quite enjoyable. The psychopath willfully adorns themselves in masks to charm, dominate, and exploit anyone they perceive as easy targets. So the schizo and autist mask out of fear of preservation, but the psycho masks to gain control of the world around them. Because schizophrenics can become violent and aggressive towards others in the same way. Like if you fall into psychosis, you will like basically kill people.
Actually, schizophrenics are statistically more likely to have violence committed against them than they commit violence
well,
against
they
others.
commit inward, like their aggression is turned inward, but like a psychopath can also become psycho.
Again, we're talking like I'm being literal, not metaphorical schizo.
Yeah, but a psychopath, they're more likely to harm other people.
Oh yeah,
You know
they
what
do
I'm
it
saying?
for fun constantly.
But like the schizo, I agree with you, like would more likely harm themselves.
Yes,
first.
or be harmed by others.
Yeah.
Well, I know what Tim is talking about because I have worked with autistic people as well, and it is true. Because autistic people don't sometimes pick up social cues and sometimes don't follow instructions right away, they are actually much more likely to be shot by the police than a normie.
That's true.
Like the thing about violence being enacted towards an autistic person, it's much more likely. Yeah, they're much more likely to be the
Especially
victim.
if you go against their schedule.
Right.
It's no joke, dude. I'm not joking.
Well, I'm laughing because... Dude, I actually lost my mind during the quarantine because there was no like normal schedule thing. Like, you know, like I have to go to bed tonight because I have to go to work, and I have to go to work to pay my bill, to do this thing, to do that thing. Once that structure was suspended, that's the only time I've ever felt my sanity lapse. So I'm laughing out of sympathy. You know what I mean?
I'm just overly protective over people I consider under my protection. So I'm also just like not being normal about it.
I've been a life coach for autistic adults. I was really good at it. I just did not enjoy it. I just did not enjoy the job. I don't do it.
Well, it's like, but that's a pure autist is, I mean, I feel like I'm a mixture of both archetypes because I am really schizo as well. I have patterns that I behave in, but like if you break the pattern, I might get like a little unhappy, but I'm not going gonna like throw a meltdown or something. I have had a meltdown though. I've had meltdowns. It's just like it's like in extreme circumstances, right? So, but I've also done exposure therapy.
Which is
Like
excellent.
if you do exposure therapy to yourself and you self-mediate, it's really helps you like normalize. Like it's not a bad thing or a good thing to be any of those except a psychopath. Also, I say not all because I've known psychopaths and some sociopaths that are self-aware and they understand that altruism is actually the most logical outcome for humans, and so they've chosen not to manipulate or hurt people. So there are people like that too.
Yeah, because things only have any meaning when you do them for no reason at all.
But when they reason through it and they're like, well, it doesn't make sense for me to like stab you in the back because it's just dumb. Like I've met actual psychopaths that have that recognition, but it's like literally like less than 1%.
In theory, if we're going to listen to the words of Rudolf Steiner, you could be born with any of these conditions, or if you really believe Rudolf Steiner, traits. I know you're not supposed to say that. But let's say those things do exist. Even if you're born with something, you can change your character sheet by the cultivation of certain traits through conscious awareness, reflection, meditation. So if you're born an autist, if you're born a schizo, or a normie, you can actively change who you are. In fact, that's why the Buddhists say that a human incarnation is precious, precisely for this reason, because as long as you're drawing breath, as long as you are still in a human incarnation, you can choose to change yourself.
I mean, you can't make yourself not an autist,
but you can learn to cope and adapt to your situation.
You can learn different mechanisms to be more functional.
Can you ever learn to be okay with the chicken tendies touching the mashed potatoes?
Yes.
No.
Maybe yes, maybe
yes. You can dip them in it like a dip. Yeah, especially with gravy. It's better with gravy.
Like, I will probably never be okay with the splitting of poles when I'm walking with someone, but I have a coping mechanism.
Just say bread and butter.
No, it doesn't work. Does not work. But my coping mechanism is I'm not going to make the other person go back around. I'm going to go back around.
She'll go back around the pole and like follow, kind of?
Yeah.
Oh, that's adorable.
Also, don't step on any cracks.
Like, I can't get over it. It's like gears grinding in my head. And I don't want to be like an asshole making the other person accommodate something that's on me. So
yeah, but you can do it. You have the freedom to do it for yourself.
Exactly. Sometimes I don't say anything. I'll just do it. I'll just go around the pole and not say anything.
I like that. I respect that. I would do the same thing.
So we're at the end of the free show, and there's some stuff that is not in the notes that I have to talk about. I believe in most cultures, what we diagnose as schizophrenia usually has a Venn diagram overlap with that same individual if they were in another society being chosen to be a shaman, which is not fun, right? Like the spirits mess up your life. You can't have a normal life anymore. You can't just go be a normie. That's why people don't want to do it and why it sucks to be chosen by the spirits. But the idea, if we subscribe to their model of the universe, is that they are chosen by the spirits and that they're not crazy. They're the ones chosen to interact with the spirits.
Because they're the only ones that can sense them. And even while autists can do this, they just want to help society. They want to belong. Autists have a huge longing to be part of the herd. But if they can go in service to the herd, the schizo has all of the tools to see what's coming and to help alert others to what danger is unfolding. So that, to me, is what the shaman is the shaman can convene with the spirit world and use their psychic telepathic powers to understand what's happening and even inform and heal the local normie population. And that's what they're supposed to do. That's why tribal peoples had a position for that kind of person.
Like what you're saying previously, Luke, is that they don't choose the life chooses them. So it's like, I didn't choose the Thunderbird life, the Thunderbird chose me.
Yeah, well, what I'm getting at is, let's say their model of the universe is true and psychopaths are not actually psychopaths. They're just people that are possessed by evil spirits or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's viable though.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. That, like, let's say you've cracked open your noggin and you can see spirits and you just happen to notice all the really evil manipulative people have some weird reptilian thing attached to them. It's not that they're born with scales. It's that your psychic vision is seeing their soul. They're not actually reptilians. I swear to God, this happened to me once. Took a bunch of acid. Andrew and I were watching D&D videos. YouTube. The boringest thing you could ever watch. Those dudes looked normal. I cracked open my laptop. It was like Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, and like, Mitch McConnell or something. Those dudes actually looked like they had scales and they were reptilian people. I was like, oh my God, I see what the crazy people see in this moment. I don't see it all the time, but I have seen it once, and it was like they live.
Yeah.
One time I took mushrooms and everyone that was there was either like a purple or a green toad.
Whoa.
And then it was at a mountain party. And then I actually saw the biggest toad I have ever seen in my entire life, and then made a pact with the forest because I was like, humans are icky and the forest is icky, and I won't get my ick on you if you don't get your ick on me. But they were all toad people. So it's kind of similar. It was just whether they were a purple or a toad or a green or a toad.
And how big they were.
Yeah.
This reminds me of Fear Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah, because like to me, a psychopath is literally a fallen peer. They're a schizo that's fallen into the dark side, but they also are aware. Whereas a schizophrenic is not aware anymore. They are self-consuming.
Metaphorical, not literal.
Yeah, I'm just saying, with the archetypes.
Mm-hmm.
They're the dark sides of the same power structure. We have the same superpowers, but we're using them for different sides of the force or whatever.
So if you'd like to hear the rest of this episode where we get to bring up, guess what, Tim? Marxism.
Oh, fuck. I mean, hold on. Okay.
Political Ponerology, why psychopaths are likely to be more successful in society, why that is, how paramoralisms work, basically how to manipulate the heck out of people and how it works. That's what we're going to talk about, how psychopaths manipulate the out of people, and how psychopaths can also drive you crazy using science to back up how that works, and how to defend yourself against the psychos.
Protect the normie at all costs.
If you'd like to hear that, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you this extended episode, you'll get all of our extended episodes, which are so voluminous, it's going to be hard to even scroll to the beginning. You should probably, after you log into Patreon, it connects to your Spotify, and you can browse all the episodes in your normal Spotify app, which is very convenient. Also, do a 5x5 high-quality vinyl sticker for our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art, which scares away normies. I wish I could say it scares away psychos, but it definitely scares away normies.
Yeah, they don't understand that.
And it'll get you the keys to our Discord server, where you can hang out with a menagerie of weird individuals that we cohabitate with.
Also, for an extra $100, you can join the Cool Socks Club, and yeah.
Don't listen to him, he just wants feet pics.
Shut up.
That's the Black Bag Club, where you'll be replaced by a clone, and you will be placed into service of the Illuminati reptilian squad that manages hedge funds or something. I don't know.
Subscribe today.
Thank you, everybody. Eat carrots, shoot lasers.
Pew, pew, pew.
Pew, 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 pew.
Or you can just chill with us in a Discord and not have to do that.
Hell yeah.
What's a hedge fund, anyway?